Hello everybody, and welcome back. It's been a while, actually. So, Happy New Year, happy 2023. It's the first video that I've uploaded for 2023, so what I'm going to do is talk about 2022, because that makes sense. Here's my 2022 in review, and it won't rhyme again like that for another 10 years. January. Oh boy, I did a lot this year. Sorry, I made a list, but I made half of this list in June and half of it just now. So some of this I'm looking at and I'm like, oh, I can't, that was 2022. 2022, January. I went on a Highway 1 road trip with George. We went from Sacramento to San Diego. That was in 2022. That was 12 months ago. Wow. I started going on what I call mini adventures or solo adventures. The first one being to Saguaro National Park. I was trying to do this because I knew eventually I was going to be in a different country by myself, and I didn't want to confine myself to one room because I was too afraid to go out and explore things. So I started in places that I was familiar with, going out by myself, doing adventures, and then coming back and showing myself that it's okay, nothing bad happens. Exposure therapy, if you will. And my second term at University of Arizona began, which was fun. In February, I continued with the solo adventures and I went to the Biospheres 2, which is a really cool thing where they tried to figure out how you could terraform a different planet and live there until, I don't know, they just wanted to see if it was possible. And turns out it's possible, it's just not feasible, if that makes sense. And then in another solo adventure, I visited the Sonoran, Arizona Desert Museum, and I did that with my roommate, or my ex-roommate, Will. That's when I realized I actually prefer going by myself, because I have a very specific pace that I like doing things at, and not everybody else can follow that. In March, I went to Newport for spring break, because my parents always do things for spring break, and it was either Palm Springs or Newport, and I already live in a desert, so why go to Palm Springs? The answer is it's because Palm Springs is really fun and I kind of wish I go there more often. Maybe spending more time when I'm driving up to home. I might talk about that. That might be fun. But we went to Newport anyway because that's on the beach. While we were at Newport's really close to Anaheim, we went to Disneyland. I had churros. We also went whale watching and we saw 6 gray whales. Keep this in mind. We saw 6 gray whales. Gray whales, they're not small. And we saw 6 of them. 6 individual ones. That's amazing. There was also dolphins. We saw baby dolphins. And I think there was a gray whale calf, but I'm not positive. I don't remember that. I have photos. In April, I turned 24. For my birthday, I visited my grandparents in Sedona, Arizona. It was kind of a surprise. They weren't really expecting it. I went up for a weekend. I told my parents that if you were ever in Sedona, my grandparents were in Sedona, I'd like to come up and visit. They said, oh, we're up here. And I was like, it's my birthday. I'm going to join you. And then I went up there and it was a good time. As another solo adventure, I went to the Science Museum and I saw shiny rocks. It was a good time. This was also the time when I started joining forces with the other people in my Korean class, and we had like a study group, and I had a good time and I made friends that I still talk to today. Actually, I did talk to them today when I'm filming this. And I finished my purple blanket, which is here. I brought it with me. In May, I moved halfway out of my Tucson apartment back to home because I had to move fully out, but you know, my car is little. I couldn't make all the stuff in one trip. I finished my second term in Arizona with all A's. I'm a nerd. And I started my third term, my summer term, with Arizona, and I was doing that entirely online, and I did that from home and other places, but mostly home. In June, I went camping at French Meadows with my family, and we had a hammock, and I loved the hammock so much that I bought myself one when we got back. It was also really rainy that time, so it was okay. We visited Morgan in Montana, so that was fun. I enjoyed that. I had never been to Montana before. I don't know if I want to go back in the winter, but I would be open to visiting in the summer. And then we spent Father's Day in the Bay Area with my grandparents. My grandparents are old, okay? I want to spend as much time as possible with them when I'm an adult to like actually have conversations, because now that I'm an adult, sometimes my grandpa will just drop bombs of like what his childhood was like or things that happened, and I'm just staring at it like, that? You did that? and it's really fun. So before they go, I want to have as much time with them, hearing as many weird stories that I'd never heard before, even though I've known this man my entire life. I just want more of that. In July, my dad helps me move entirely out of my Tucson apartment, which I had a little bit more left over than I thought I did. Good thing we took the bigger car. I also visited with George, and this time I didn't get into a car accident on the way out. Improvement. I'm also realizing that I normally see George once every 6 months, and I won't be able to do that this year. It'll be a full year before I see her again, which is upsetting, but we're making it through. In July, we went to Newport again because it's my mom's favorite place, and July is my mom's birthday, so we went again. We went whale watching, and we saw 2 blue whales. Keep in mind, I've seen 8 whales in 2022. 6 blue whales, or 6 gray whales, and 2 blue whales. Top that. I guess if you go out and you look for whales every single day, then you'd see whales a lot more, but you know what? I hadn't seen a whale before that, so I got it. I got some. And it was really fun, and I don't understand how you could possibly hunt a blue whale in a ship. They're so big. Moby Dick makes less and less sense the more I see whales in relation to how large of a human I am. I also got my 3rd COVID jab. They stabbed it in my arm and then it was good. Although that day I also had 2 other vaccines. I think it was typhoid something vaccine, and the one for rust or against rust, tetanus, and another one which is I also started with the T, and then COVID. I got them all in one day. I hate needles, so I was a mess afterwards. My dad had to drive me home. It was like a whole thing. I have never felt worse. My skin was sharp. I couldn't eat. I was cold and hot at the same time. It was an awful time, but it only lasted 24 hours and then I was completely fine. So, and I haven't had COVID at all since then. So whatever it is, it works because people around me are also getting COVID, and the fact that I haven't means that it's doing what it needs to be doing. And then my parents asked me what I wanted to do before I left the country for a year, and I said go to Golden Gate Park. Why? I don't know, it just popped into my head. I hadn't been there since I was a child, so I wanted to go, and it was fun. I brought my camera. I took really cool close-up photos that, you know, I was learning how to do my camera. It was fun. I had a good time. In August, I struggled with my visa. We went back to San Francisco, and I cried a lot. There was so much happening that needed to happen in a timely manner that just wasn't happening, and I needed it. I needed it to happen. I also finished summer term, and then I moved to South Korea. So everything worked out. But August was a hard month. August was really difficult. I remember crying a lot. In September, I started SNU, which a lot of people call SNU here, especially in the buddy program, which I'll get to. And if you know or are familiar with, I think it's Futurama. I think it's one of those cartoon shows. You'll know why people called it SNU and why people were uncomfortable calling it SNU. So I'm going to be calling it SNU, but if it comes out as SNU, now you know why. My dad dropped me off. I'm gonna say because he loves me, but it might also be because he wanted to explore Korea. But we explored together for 2 weeks. Well, kind of. There was a typhoon, and I was afraid of going out, so he forced me out, and then I was starting school, and there was a lot of anxiety, and I think I had a panic attack in the train on the first day, and we had to get off and then get back on. It's only happened a few other times, all in times of significant stress. So, yeah, that was fun. But we did explore, and I did have a good time. And then he left me behind to go continue his regular life, and I was left here for an opportunity of a lifetime to explore a new country and live on my own in a place that I don't understand the language entirely. Rude. I had a good time though. I did cry when he left for like 10 minutes, and then I got my act together and I went to class. It was a good time. I'm an adult, I think. Because I was logging for human connection, something I never thought I'd say, I joined SNU Buddy, and I went to every activity they offered with the exception of pub night, because being in a crowded pub, as someone who was both an introvert and doesn't drink, didn't really seem like the ideal place for me. So I just didn't go. I might go this time though, just because it's a good way of making friends. But I did manage to make friends. I made 5 friends that month. 1 from the buddy group and no, 2 from the buddy group and 3 from class. In October, I went hiking, like a lot, like 3 whole times. When you think about it, in all of the other months before October, I went hiking twice. Once in Sonora or Saguaro National Park, and once in Newport, but that one I probably shouldn't have gone on, and because I had a bee sting on the bottom of my foot. And I would have gone on 3, but because of the bee sting, and I had hiked the day before, it was probably a good idea that I didn't hike the next day because my foot was like, it's not, don't go hiking with a bee sting on the bottom of your foot. Just don't. It's not a good time, and if you're not having a good time, then why do it, you know? I started exploring outside of Seoul. Part of the hiking was outside Bukhansan. It's just outside of Seoul proper, and it's a really beautiful national park. I started exploring a little bit outside of Seoul. We went to Incheon, we went to Bukhansan, we went to a bunch of places that just around Seoul that weren't very far. It's like day trips outside of Seoul. I went to more places with SNU buddies. We went to Latte World. We did a lot of things. I don't remember all of them, but it was a good time. And then with my friends, we wore hanbok, and it was the first time for me wearing hanbok. Hanbok is traditional Korean dress, and it was pretty. And the palace was pretty because we went to Gyeongbokgung Palace wearing the hanbok, and it was a good time. In November, I went to Busan with 2 friends, or a friend and a friend by proxy, and I went to the SNU Buddy MT. MT stands for membership training, but technically it's not that. It's a fancy word for saying we're gonna put a group of people with one thing in common together in a cabin next to a river and get them really, really drunk and just leave them there for 24 hours. So you come in, you play some games, you have some dinner, you drink a lot, and then you leave. Like it's an overnight trip. You just leave the next day and you've made new friends. And it's amazing how well it works. I walked in that MT with 2 friends. I walked out that MT with plans to go to Busan again with someone I met that night, with plans to have dinner with at least 4 other people. I also drank, which might have helped. I don't really remember a lot of it. I had 3 bottles of soju, and then when I got back to my room, for some reason I decided on my way back to purchase another bottle of soju. And I only know this because I have pictures of the brand of soju that we were drinking at the MT, and when I woke up in my room, safe and sound, door locked, everything was fine, there was a half-empty bottle of soju on my floor from a different brand. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if I drank it or if I took it away from someone who was drinking it. I just know that it was there, and I've never done that again because that was it was okay until I got messages being like, are we still down for dinner? And I realized I had made plans with people that I met and didn't remember, one of which was going to Busan. So I went to Busan for a second time, this time with George. George will feature in a lot of other things too, because he and I became close friends very quickly, actually, like really quickly now that I'm looking at when I met him and how I met him. Anyway, I went to Busan again. I saw different things. It was fun. Busan is a really good place to go. Like, if you're gonna visit Korea, you should visit Seoul and Busan. Like, if you're just gonna be here 2 weeks, week in Seoul, week in Busan, you're not gonna see everything. In fact, you're gonna see very few things, but you will see good things. December 2022. I lost friends. We're gonna go straight over that. I had people who I thought were friends, turns out not so much. And then some friends went home. So I was alone. It was me and George. And I think that might have been why we got so close so fast, because all my friends left and I think a lot of his friends left. So it was just us. I experienced too much snow. Like, it's fun to go see snow and then be done. Like, go see snow, come back, and be done with the snow. The problem with the snow is, and I think a lot of places had it, we had a cold snap. So it was snow, and then it was too cold. And then there was more snow, and then it was cold again. And it was a lot of snow. The best part about the snow was the little snow ducks that people made. I also made them. Thank you very much. And the cursed snowmen that I tried to make, because people who are used to handling snow with their bare hands are stronger than I am. That's the only thing I can think of, like, how to describe it. They're stronger than me. So all of my snowmen were kind of cursed, or snow people were cursed. I celebrated 100 days in Korea, and this was really shortly after the whole thing with everybody leaving. It was like, I made plans to do something with everybody on 100 days. We were gonna go to Namsan Tower and make a lock, and then like 2 days before, the drama happened. And so I spent the day after crying alone in my room, and then I spent the next day going to Namsan by myself and making the lock by myself for myself. And I think that was a really good thing for me to do at that time for myself, because it reminded me why I was there, why I was here, why I was doing what I was doing, and that I spent 100 days basically in a new place. And yeah, it was a good time, and I'm glad I did it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I got some really good pictures of the room, and if I had gone with other people, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it the way that I did, because I spent a lot of time just staring at nothing. Not nothing, but like zoning out and looking at this whole vista and looking at art and things that other people don't really want to stare at for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, because nothing changes. and then on a whim, sort of impulsively, kind of like how I do a lot of things these days, I booked an entire 2-week trip to Japan. I had a lot of confidence from that one trip that I did by myself to Namsan, that I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can go to Japan by myself. One of the friends that I was planning on going to Japan with was one of the friends in the drama, so I wasn't going to go with her anymore. And I still wanted to go, so I was like, okay, I'll go by myself. And then it was a good time. I went, but that was this year, so we're not going to go over that. And sometime in December, George was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to Japan. He goes, can I come? I said yes. So that's a sneak peek into January of 2023. If you want to follow along all of my adventures, because some of them really were adventures, you can check out my second channel. It's Real Life Cat, all one word, I think. I'll link it down below, and I also post about it, like links to it, on my social media. So if you found this video through my social media, just keep looking. Eventually one of my vlogs will show up. I make them every 2 weeks or so, or after a big event, basically. And I just post them up there, so if you want to follow along as the drama happens, you can do that over there. If not, you can wait until 2024 to hear about how 2023 went. That sounds horrible to say out loud. 2024. Just think about your 2009 self. In 2009, I was 11. I would not have thought that in 2023, that I would be here, like, at all. Like, I don't know, 2023 seemed really far away, and I wasn't entirely sure, like, how long I would live. You know the way that kids are. They're like, 25, that's old. No, it's not. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't even graduated yet. Like, I don't know. I live with my parents. Well, not right now. Right now I live in a ghost one, but still. Even just 10 years ago, 2012, I was 14. At 14, if you told me in 2023 you'd be living in Korea, you'd be studying psychology in English and Korean, you'd speak a language that was not English. I mean, it's not entirely fluent, but I can get by. A lot more than I thought I could when I went to Japan. I was very clearly overwhelmed by the difference in language. It's amazing. Like, last year started with a road trip down Highway 1. That feels like lifetimes ago. I went to Montana. When? How was that all in 1 year? How? Hopefully this year will be just as fun, and I will update you again in 2024. Back to that whole mind spiral. 2024, I'll see you again. Bye!